Hello guys, Diana is here, the host of the podcast Perspective of the Mind. Today's episode is especially designed for those of you who like spirituality, personal development, mysticism, for those of you who like to ask deep questions and search for deep answers. If that's you, please keep watching. My guest today is Ryan Keys, who is gifted spiritual teacher, writer, mystic, who has a lot of expertise in spirituality, self-awareness, and holistic well-being. It's time for us guys to open the door for the magical side of our existence and personal growth. I'm so glad that you walk into this space with me and my guests. Enjoy watching. Hello, Ryan, and welcome to the show.
How's it going?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Better.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I know that you have been through a tough period, but you're back,
Yes.
more powerful than ever, right?
Yes. That's the way it seems to go.
Yeah. By the way, it's such an honor to have as a guest on my podcast and to have the opportunity to bring people into the depths of the spirituality, mysticism. And I'm not able to do that alone, so thank you for assisting me in that. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Before we dive deep into that, I want to ask you, who is Ryan Keys?
I think of this phrase all the time. I fell down the tree of life and hit every single branch and broke every single bone. But when I hit the bottom, I didn't want to die. So I got back up and healed as hard as it was and just kept climbing back up. I think I've climbed the tree of life over and over and over. I think of like Jungle Book, climbing up to grab the vine to swing out of this forest. But yeah, so I am a culmination of curiosity and frustration, and most of the time I'm in awe of life, but a lot of times I am terrified at the power we have in our own lives and how little we use it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a balance, right? So I constantly try to find the balance because I died when I was 21. I had the right side of my face crushed. So this is all titanium. And I had a near-death experience in that time. I was flatlined for 3 minutes. Then I had another near-death when I was 33. I drowned in the river doing a stunt in Utah, and I was under for about 4.5 minutes. And during that time, I was I was about 2,000 years before this, walking with Yeshua, not Jesus, um, learning him as a man and not as this martyr that's been created in our time. So a lot of conundrums, a lot of really weird things. And then to process that has been like pretty much the goal of my life, to like kind of like, what do you do with that? Because I had no control over those thoughts or emotions, and those discoveries were contradictory to my personal beliefs and my upbringing. So I had to incorporate those somehow. And I've done plant medicine and psychedelics, and I almost died again. Not this past summer, but the last summer. And so obviously something's knocking on my door, but I keep trying to open it, but I guess I have to get back and get a bigger picture and open my eyes wider to see something, because I think that all of us are still missing something. There's something more that we're not seeing. So that's why I went on this quest. I guess you could kind of, because I've been in healthcare for 14 years. So I kind of think of myself as like a metaphysician, right? Like I'm trying to take science and soul and kind of figuring out the happy medium and blend those together. And through the course of doing that, you get beat up a lot because the universe doesn't want to be tagged and identified, right?
I really like, and I'm not surprised from the fact that you put like a spiritual flavor to describing who is Ryan Keys. I love that because I believe that the more we remember our true essence, the freer we become, right? Because our true essence is not connected with anything in the physical world, and that's super powerful, right? Isn't it? You have described those two near-death experiences. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What exactly did you experience and how did you feel?
Well, yeah, I think first to categorize both because they were the opposite ends of the spectrum. One was induced under surgery accidentally, so I had no challenge. I slipped in like behind the radar and just kind of woke up on the operating table while they were trying to revive me, looking around, and I saw this African American woman bring the crash cart in, and I heard them say, "We're losing him. We have to work, get him back." And then so that one experience started very passively. Death is a very interesting thing because like I can imagine if you died during your sleep, it would be that type of experience. The second time that I went through the near death was probably much like most people that are fighting for their life feel. I mean, I was under the water, it was midnight, I could see the moon through the water, my foot was trapped, I was stuck under a raft. um, like it kept moving back and forth and hitting me against a rock, and finally I was just like, wow, I'm gonna die. And I couldn't hold my breath anymore, and I was fighting, and I felt like I wanted to turn into the Incredible Hulk just to like bust out of this problem. So there was a lot of resistance, there was a lot of hesitancy, there was a lot of fear that wasn't associated with the first near death. So I think I got to experience a conscious death and then an unconscious death. The conscious death was tragic, it was horrific, and to feel your life slipping away was the worst experience I've ever could fathom, right? The first experience was more sedate. It was more of self-discovery. It was like, you know, it'd be like probably like when I've done ayahuasca, it starts out really good and really like chill, and you're like, oh my God, look, there's a lot of like geometric patterns on the ceiling, and then suddenly you're in the dark night. So the first time, um, here I am just drifting in. It's really sweet. And then I realize and have the shock and awe, I'm dead on the table. And then the ceiling opens up, and it's all these stars. And then I look back down and I'm not in that room anymore. And I'm walking up this little path, up this little hill. And when I got to the top of the hill, the lights started converging and getting brighter. And I was got a little afraid. And then I heard a voice say, come here. And I looked down the hill and there was a beach, and I walked to the beach, which is kind of ironic if you like think of the movie like Contact with Jodie Foster and her father. So my dad had been a big part of my life, but he wasn't in it, but he came later. But so I walked down the beach and there's this 12-year-old boy, and behind him is this man that's dressed in black with a beard, looked official, but like a church official, right? He was in the distance. And this boy was sitting on the beach and he goes, sit, I want to talk to you. I was like, okay. And I sat down and I go, um, what do you want to talk about? He goes, well, I just want to talk about life. And what do you feel right now? And I said, well, I feel curious. I feel like I don't know where I'm at. And I saw like this image of me laying on the table, dead. Am I dead? And he goes, I don't know. Are you? And I'm like, and I go, look, I go, if I'm dead, please don't speak to me in riddles. Just give it to me straight. Right. I'm like, I'm a 21-year-old kid. I don't want to be dead. I mean, I've got my whole life in front of me. I don't want to die. And then he goes, are you dead? And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, well, sit down. Let's talk about it. And he goes, you see that moon? And you see that? And so it was weird. So the moon was setting and then the sun starts to rise, and the moons, they're trading off. And he goes, and you see how the sun is rising? And he goes, if the sun only rises and sets from this point of view. I was like, okay. And he goes, but if we could sit on the sun, it would never set. So when you think of the sun saving you, it's through your own perception. Death is a doorway. You're not dead. You never will be dead.
Well,
What you're,
I'm
go ahead.
listening to all of those things and it's like scary.
This is
It
a little scary.
it is scary. And Ryan, how did your journey in spirituality begin? Probably those experiences were the catalyst.
Well, see, before that, I was going to be a preacher, right? I went to seminary school. I was gung ho for Jesus. I believed, I saw Jesus save me at one time. I saw Jesus save my father. Religion was powerful in my heart. I
Mhm.
had a deep message for, you know, forgiveness and salvation. And this changed everything. It took my faith and it tested it to the core. It took God away from me, the God I believed, and it gave me a much bigger God, right? It gave me a God that wasn't trapped in a book.
And what did you discover during this self-awareness journey that you wish you knew earlier?
I think like, well, if I had to look back even from today,
Mhm.
the greatest lesson that I could have ever incorporated in my life is to ultimately see everything from a place of gratitude, to not let my energy um, stay stuck in the past with situations that no longer exist,
Mhm.
because I can't face life fully if I have all these little tethers, energetic tethers stuck with anchors back in my past. And the only way I can release those is to find the ability to be thankful for that. And
And
like I was
how
molested as
can
a
you do
child.
that? How can you be thankful and grateful for really painful experiences?
Well, I mean, okay, so like for instance, I was to tell you, so my dad molested me, right, when I was 4. He was drunk and he did it 3 times. It was very painful, very traumatic. Obviously, I held that against him for a long time. But after my first near death and I saw the biggest picture ever possible, I forgave him because I knew that everything that's happening, we have free will, but our free will doesn't necessarily give us the ability to change the direction of the earth or our experience. There will be things that happen in our life that we cannot stop. And they're bigger things than we can understand or fathom. And there is, and I for a long time I was a skeptic, and I wanted to say no, that's not the truth, that can't be possible. And then, for instance, I found out after my father passed away. He died the year after my face was crushed when I was 21, and we had this really beautiful encounter where he told me that he asked me to forgive him, and he said, "I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for failing you." But he goes, "If I never see you again, just take care of your mom." And he died that day. He left and he died. So, and I forgave him. And I didn't forgive him because of that, because what he did was wrong or right. I forgave him because I didn't want to be there anymore. I
Mhm.
didn't want to be that little boy that got abused anymore. And I to let go, I had to find a place of power there. I can't, you can't reflect on something that is that traumatic and approach it with weakness.
Yeah.
You have to find power. And power is the only power you can find is not forgiving him, but being thankful that I'm here now and I can look back because I'm not dead. Because see, when you die, you realize, wow, you only get a few chances here, and you really want to take advantage of it, right?
Hmm. Hmm. I'm so sorry to hear those experiences, and at the same time, I'm so glad that you found the power within yourself to forgive. And forgiveness is the path for living much brighter life, I believe. Unfortunately, some things just happen to us, especially when we are kids and we don't have influence on that, right? Those
Well,
are the circumstances we're in. We don't have any power over them. But I really like one quote that I have heard before some years, and it was like, we are not responsible for the traumas that happen to us, especially during our childhood, but we are responsible for our healings and
that's it.
not perpetuating the suffering and perpetuating the cycle, hurt people, hurt other people, right? So I'm glad that you've done all of that work. And Ryan, I often hear you saying that talking about awakening and spiritual awakening, what should people wake up to now? Tell us.
Well, I think so. Here's the issue. I think that's and you know the word dogma, right? Like we see it in a lot of different things. Like dogma meaning that false understandings, or you know, we'll call it the cotton candy syndrome, right? Where people think that, oh wow, when awakening or consciousness or heaven or whatever it is all this cotton candy. It's like so. It's like it's a goal they want to get to. But I don't really think awakening, or I don't think consciousness, like spiritual awakening is it's not an end. It's not a destination, right? It's not spiritually, we're all spiritually awakened, which is the real elusive thing. All of us are, so all of us are empathic. All of us are connected to whatever this is. All of us are spiritually awakened. It's just, what do we want to do with it? Right? What do you want to do with the knowledge that you control your reality? And you can't control other people's reality. Like I can't manifest and say, hey, you're going to be here now. Boom, you're in my office, right? That doesn't work like that. But I can manifest and say, how do I perceive? How can I choose to face my day? Am I going to lay on my sofa and not go out of my house? Or am I going to be, full throttle and just go live life and do what I want to do and be very, and be, I can choose my character, right? So I think awakening is more awareness, but there's a lot of, well, in like psychiatry, and I know like a lot of psychiatrists, I actually coach a lot of psychiatrists, which is kind of funny. Um, I always think that it's kind of humorous when I'm coaching them on the spiritual world and they're like, I need help. I'm like, but you're the psychiatrist. So, but you're sitting there and like, so it's like a psychiatrist, or by nature, most times we're trained because we need to live and survive. So we create this elusive connection to everyone to keep coming back for more because it feeds us. Very, very few people will train someone or work with someone and influence them to leave forever. Like there's the phrase, you can feed a man a fish, or you can teach him to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. Well, most medical practitioners, and I'm being one myself, we're trying to develop a relationship so they keep coming back. When I went through cancer, I was sitting in the, and so I went through cancer and I was sitting in the oncology, and a lady came in, and this was her second battle with breast cancer. And the lady at the front desk goes, oh my God, I'm so happy to see you. You look great. How are you? And when the lady went in, I walked up to her and I was like, can I ask you a question? And I go, I'm not trying to come down on you, but why are you so excited to see her? And she goes, because she's such a great woman. I said, but why are you so excited to see her here in this place, meaning that she's sick again? You shouldn't, don't encourage her in that way. Be sweet, be kind, but don't bring her back. And because when you're sick and nobody else wants to be around you, you identify with the person that's aiding you and helping you. And if they're continually making money off you being sick, there's a problem there. So I think a lot of the facets of the unconscious healing world of psychiatry and psychology is all designed to keep the patient coming back. Where I think that true empowerment is to help the person to become whole, so they no longer have to call you or see you, right? Like,
Exactly.
and I just feel that awakening is truly that. And there's a lot of spiritual people out there that are giving spirituality this dogma feeling because they want you to keep dialing into them. They don't want you to leave. They want you to keep following me, keep doing this, and right. And it's like, and I've built communities, and I had a podcast that had like 40,000 followers, and I shut it down. And then I built a community like on Mighty Networks, and I would do group sessions. And then I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to give people tools so they can do it themselves. And if they need understanding, or if they need explanation, or if they need to touch base, I'm there. But I'm not going to hold their hand through this entire thing. Nobody held mine. You have to be able to do this on your own. And if you can't give someone a tool to take it on themselves, you're making them codependent. And that's not healed. That's not whole. That's not awakening.
Are you saying that the awakening shall be basically remembering that everybody is powerful? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah. We all have that. We all can do it. Nobody is nobody is left behind because we're all equal, and nobody understands that.
Yeah, we are all equal. I so much believe in that.
Mhm.
absolutely equal. And I think that sometimes some people think that they're more than somebody else just because deeply inside of themselves they feel that they are less. You know, those both things should exist into the consciousness. Otherwise, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. It's all ego playing the game that I'm more, I'm less. There isn't
Yes.
such thing. Yeah. Okay, so awakening that everybody is powerful, right? And let's now imagine that everybody remembers that.
Yes.
What will the world look like?
The same.
Sure, the same,
Same.
the same,
Because
with all
think
the
of it like,
wars and all the things happening.
well, maybe not as devastating, but the spirit of emotion, which is bound to the body, which, so there's three levels of our interaction with the conscious world. There is the completely masculine drive and connected to the 3D body, which is instinct. That's autopilot. We would have to be able to remove that instinct, that need, that the fear to alter that. And even with as many things as I've been through, it's still there. I can learn to negotiate with it. I can learn to observe it. But the first pop, it's there to save you. And I would say the next stage would be when you move into your mind, into the third eye, the pineal gland, or whatever you want to call it, is imagination, which is all feminine. Imagination is feminine. That's why when men are having fantasies about women, it's actually the feminine coming in. And there, when the masculine comes in, it becomes violent, right? So that's, so you can tell, like, there's healthy fantasy, there's healthy fiction, but when it becomes violent, that's the masculine rising up of that influence of instinct and fear, survival. And it alters the fantasy, alters the third eye, because there's this balance that has to happen. And the balance is only found through the masculine and the feminine in the heart, or the intuition, the connection to the greater good. Like there's four stages of consciousness: the victim, then the me, and then the I can change the world, and then the no, I can't change anything other than my world. We have to see each other as equal, and we are everyone. So when we get to that level, the world, I believe, will probably wouldn't, we would stop it. So I don't know that it would be different, because when you get to a space where you see everything as an equal, where you see every animals, trees, everything, unless you can breathe air, I don't know how you would continue. I think that's when the species elevates into something else. You can't be human and obtain that level of consciousness. And I think we see that mirrored in how the avatars of like Siddhartha or Jesus or these other masters showed us that the transmutation process is when you leave the body. But the body is such a strong force with so much generations and genetically designed to save you, to protect you, to gather, right? The hunter and gatherer will never be down. So even with the only awareness that I've ever obtained where that wasn't the issue was when I was no longer in this body. So I don't know that we can get there. And I don't, because there, even when we get there, all it takes is a loud bang to trigger a PTSD style response. And then you have mistrust instantly. So that you would have to police your thoughts and your actions so deeply. I think that we would be like androids. We'd be like passive. We could only do that by stepping out of the physical body.
As you mentioned 3D, and I know in the spiritual world there are like how it's called dimensional spaces, like 3D world, 4D world, 5D world, and maybe something I'm not aware of. So what exactly is that? Can you explain that?
Um, well, I like to think of it like, so I don't like to separate them too much, but I like to think of it like trying to separate water out of a glass, right? The water is everything that's not physical. The glass is physical and it holds everything that's not physical. So I don't know that it's, so the only thing separating us from being a hyperdimensional being, which we've seen in science, like, okay, so my prediction is that the aliens that we're seeing, that people are talking about throughout the news and all this, they're nothing more than either us in the future or they're a multidimensional being without a body. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, so when you see like a little gray alien, I don't even think that it's alive. I think that it's probably some kind of organic machine. The cup is the body. The water within it is everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe, and the only thing separating us from that field is the cup. Now you can have a colored cup or a clear cup. You could, and the funny thing is that, so, and that water can get as dirty as it's possible, right? You can put all kinds of dirt in that water, spin it around, and it's murky. But now take that water and pour it on concrete and let it sit in the sun. The dirt stays and the water evaporates. The water always finds a way out. So the life force, the soul, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, is our highest form. It's our highest connection. And there, I don't believe that it operates out of any, I think that that spirit is every dimension. The only dimension that it's not is three-dimensional or physical, the physicalization. And then because we see most things two-dimensionally, um, I think that even people are approaching like the argument of what are we two-dimensionally, because most of it's on paper, right? Most of it we're trying to put on paper, or we're trying to um, even like a screen, like a TV is it's a two-dimensional force. Like right now, we're three-dimensional beings, but we're two-dimensionally showing up. You're on a flat screen. You're not. You don't have features, and I can't see behind you. You're two-dimensional. So a lot of our um, explanations and our desires are flat because we're separated from seeing that we aren't the physical form only. This is just a cup. It can be a great cup. Some people have some really nice cups, but it's like, it's like, some people have there's cups in all shapes and sizes, but like, but you look at it, you're like, but that water never changes. So to have ultimate awareness means you no longer see the cup,
Mm-hmm.
and to see that that
And is it
can't be there.
possible? Is it possible to be in these physical forms, bodies, in this physicality, and at the same time to have higher consciousness, whatever that means, higher 5D consciousness, for example?
I think
From what
okay,
I'm
so
from what I'm hearing, that's not really going to happen.
well, okay, so think of it like this. I wrote a book called The Conscious Universe, right? And in that, I detail from my near death and from other things the outside influences that, okay, like Stephen King writes a book. Where does he get it from? So there's a field where information is sitting. That field can speak to you, right? Does it speak to you in a voice? Does it speak to you in wind? Does it speak? How does it speak to you in action, in dreams, whatever it is? But it can talk to you, and it's not talking to you like sitting down and having a conversation. It's an influence. It's a feeling. It's a thought that trickles in. And I think they've proven that when like you'll see like either the what is it, the 100th monkey effect, or like two people inventing the cotton gin on different sides of the world at the same time. Nikolai Tesla was all about that, right? Trying to find that elusive connection to consciousness. Carl Jung was diving in. He found like so many things that would support that. But when you look and you have this idea that can I get to this level of consciousness and awareness and still be in a physical form? Yes. But the moment there's an inspiration outside of that field that brings you back to the body, the challenge is there's a challenge. It's like, how far can you stretch a rubber band until it breaks? So if I'm Neil Donald Walsh talked about a story of when you're at the God conscious level. If somebody came up and wanted to steal your wallet, you would just give it to them. You wouldn't fight, and you'd be thankful because you're like, wow, you got to a place where you need that money that bad. Here you go, take it. Nobody
I
is at
remember
that level.
the story in the book. Yeah.
I mean, that would be difficult for us to be at that level. Number one reason is because even though we're at that level of consciousness, the physical body is such a powerful force for all of us because it's going to be born and it's going to die. But your body knows it's going to die. So it's going to actually dig in. It's going to dial down. It's going to be like, no, no, I don't want to die. And that's the ego. I don't want to die. Take that wallet and run, right? The higher consciousness knows it's not going to die. So if you got shot, you're like, yay, cool. You're not going to fight back and take a life. So, but the body's not going to allow you to do it. And to master the body in that form, I believe the body has to die to itself. And when it dies to itself, it's no longer going to show up in the same way, which I think this is why we hear that story of don't touch me, I'm ascending to the Father with Jesus, right? Don't touch me. Because as he was ascending to the Father, his physical form was changing. So there in the natives and the shaman in Peru, they said, goodbye, my white brother, because we're going into this next stage of human development, the death of the human species, and we're going to become homo luminous, right? That's what they've been saying for the past like 50 years. But we won't get there in this body, because this body wants to be alive and wants to be part of this experience so badly, it will do anything it can to stay here.
And right, I hear you saying on Instagram, and not only you, also other people in the spiritual area saying that you receive downloads.
Mhm.
And what does it mean, downloads? Where are those downloads coming from? Is that what you have just mentioned, some information transmitted? Is that download?
Yes, that's a download. Okay, like Ram Dass would even say. Ram Dass goes, I have a non-physical friend. His name is Manuel. Most of you would judge me if I told you that Emmanuel shows up and talks to me or has this part. And Ram Dass was a clinical psychologist and taught at Harvard for quite a bit of time. So he had the wherewithal to say, okay, well, this is not acceptable. This is not normal, and I know that. So that means I'm not crazy, right? So I
Yeah,
actually
people
wrote
will say that's delusion.
right. I wrote the book, The Conscious Universe, based on that entire dialogue,
Okay.
having a dialogue with a aspect of myself. So here's the thing you have to think. Like I write romance novels as well, right? Like for women, I write gothic romance. Where do those stories come from? So everything that where does you like when you get a gut feeling, does it come from your gut? Well, your gut has a brain. We know that. We've proven like that there's the same type of cells in the brain and the gut and in the heart that hold thought, right?
Yeah.
So why would that be, right? So, and where is that deeper connection? Where's that 100th monkey? How did those monkeys learn on the other on the mainland to do what the monkeys on the island were doing when nobody did it before? So there's a field. Jung proved there's a field. When I died, I saw a field. When I did psychedelics, when I did ayahuasca, I saw a field. When people are having near-death experiences, they're going into a field. I believe when people are being snatched by aliens, I think they're having a near death. I don't know, their body may not be dying in that sense, but I think somehow they've connected to the other side. I don't know that they were abducted. I think it's a near death that may have happened because there's a short in their brain. Maybe they passed out, they blacked out. And your body can actually show up with bruises. Your body could bruise itself because your brain is so powerful to control the physiology of your body. It's crazy, right? They've even proven it. Like Bruce Lipton has taken for epigenetics. He's taken human cells and put them in petri dishes 6 feet across from the other, electrified this petri dish with the same cells of the experiment, and the other cells reacted. It's like when you take two violins and you put them in the same room. You strum the one string and the other one vibrates. So there's a connection that we can't see. That connection that we can't see can show up to you through feeling. Like when you see somebody and you meet them, you're like, oh God, she's for me, right? Look at her. Oh my God, I've got to meet her. Where is she? When you see that, or when you see a mom pull her child out from like something before it gets hit, right? Or a mom picks her car up. Where'd she get the strength? Or when you get into an elevator and you're like, this feels weird. And you get out and then somebody gets in that's like really bad, right? So we have those. That can show up as a voice. It can not like somebody sitting down next to you and going, hey, yo, what's up? I want to have a chat with you. I think what we're seeing though is there's a high probability that there's also a mental illness that is inspired or afflicted with this condition that's gone um, unrecognized as well. I think that because we're not taught these spiritual connections like we used to be like thousands of years ago, like a shaman, because we've left that out, right? We tried to go beyond those things. When somebody's having an experience where they connect with something they can't explain, we immediately call them crazy. And then they're going to become crazy because of how we treat them and how we medicate them and how they show up. So there's a lot of things going on in the world now where we're having to face that with gender and all these other things, right? So I think that suppressed voice is trying to find a way out
Mm-hmm.
because, and is it a real voice? Is it a person? Is it somebody who's really talking to an alien on Sirius B? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
But
they don't know how to,
is it intuition or it's something different?
it's something different. It's who you are when you're not here.
Okay. All right. And what is the most
I saw
powerful
that one.
download that you have received so far?
To be on your show. No,
Oh, come on.
no. See, look at that. You're like,
Let's
gotta
be
catch
more
up.
practical for the people. What is the most powerful download that you have received that people can apply in their lives to help them?
Um, well, the number one thing, like I've said, is that how you approach your past and
Mhm.
how you approach your future,
Yeah.
and localize your whole self, mind, body, soul, as you've got a budget. Every day you start off with your full budget, and by the end of the day, you're out. You've spent your entire budget. You only have so much in that budget. Where do you want to place that energy? In the past, so that you can't be proactive now and you will not create a new future? Or you want to place it in the future, so then that means you'll be pining away and you won't create anything now, so the future is just going to be a fantasy. So it's really approaching how you handle and how you navigate energy when you're here. And I don't like to say like now, like everybody's like, oh, in this now moment. I get it, but you can just say here. It's the same thing. Even if you think of when God said, I'm omnipresent, what does that mean? Oh, he's everywhere at once. Oh, no, he's only here. You don't have to be anywhere else but here. You don't got to be in the past and the future, right? So if you're here and you're constantly reminding yourself, be here now, like Ram Dass said, be here now, and try to assess your, like a water leak. Where are you leaking energy? Look at
Yes.
it, ask yourself why, and try to fix the leak, right? Patch it
That's
if you
so
have to.
powerful.
So you can
Yeah.
do that.
Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Right? That's the way it is. And if you can do that, your future will be bright. It will get better. And you will not be plagued by all the depressions and things like that of the past, because as soon as the depression comes up, you'll realize, well, what do I, and I do this too. What can I be thankful for of right now? If I can't find gratitude in what I've gone through, if I can find gratitude right now, it's a very powerful motivator and a point of reference to ground me back into the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and once I'm grounded here and I know that gratitude did it, I continue to remind myself, wow, gratitude keeps me grounded. So then if I'm drifting into the past and I use gratitude to bring me back, what if I use gratitude to heal that and let it go?
But at the same time, I think that gratitude shall be done from a very sincere place. If we are forcing ourselves to be grateful for something, I don't think it will bring a lot of benefits.
Well, okay, so think of it like this. That's why I said you have to find something to be grateful for in the present before you go exploring the past. If you don't anchor yourself here somewhere where you're thankful,
Yeah,
um,
that's
don't
another
go
thing.
don't go doing the dark night work, right? Don't go into the shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
If you, I like to think of it like, have you ever seen, like in Hansel and Gretel when they left breadcrumbs, right, to get back home? They would
Mm-hmm.
drop breadcrumbs, right? So if you, gratitude here are the breadcrumbs that you need when you go into the present. I mean, when you go from the present to the future or to the past. So what you're saying is correct. If you can't localize enough of your budget to be thankful for where you're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's nothing you're thankful for right now, you really got a lot of work to do. But it's not about working in the past. It's not about going to a therapist and sitting down and puking all of your pain and suffering on something in the past, because that's not proactive. That's regurgitative. That's
Yeah.
just, you're gonna, now you've just got indigestion of I can't do anything. So the idea is you have to work, like let's say it's somebody that's not got, they got a low self-image. Well, be thankful that you're alive. That's the first thing. Because I'll tell you, when you're dead, and you don't, you have a lot of things, but you don't feel anything,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to feel a hand on your face. You're not going to have an orgasm. You're not going to have any of the things that you associate with the physical body when you're gone. So find something now in the physical world that makes you feel, not, it doesn't have to make you feel completely full, but it triggers something within you. Maybe you like to play the trumpet. Maybe you like to paint. Maybe you like, so
Yeah.
find something that you're thankful for.
I love the idea of being grateful for something in the present moment, because sometimes people cannot relate and cannot be grateful for something in the past, right? And forcing that to me is like, I don't think it's beneficial. That's why I love the idea of finding something to be grateful for the present moment. And also, if you can be and you can shift the experience, the past painful experience, into something beautiful, perfect. If you cannot, I don't know. I don't think it's forcing yourself. It will be helpful, right? We cannot force our emotions.
Right.
It's
You force yourself. You play it. It's kind of like you're searching for buried treasure, right? To find something in the past that's going to redeem itself or to surrender the gift of being able to release it because you're grateful that you're here. You got to be grateful you're here first,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
as you know,
So
you
blessed to
you're
be
you're
here,
you're
right?
you know you're a therapist. You've got a lot of hours under your belt. But look where you're at now. You know that what we've been doing as a collective has to up level. There's something that's missing. We've got to explore more. We've got to ask bigger questions. And I like to think of trying to find gratitude in the past is just asking the right questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is it true? Like Byron Katie says, because most of the things that we remember about our past are actually not real.
Exactly. We have to change the perception about the past experiences. But not everybody is able to do that. And sometimes when they hear just be grateful, that's too much of an effort if they're not able to change the perception about what has happened, right? That's why I'm just emphasizing on that here.
It's 100%.
Go
I
ahead.
was just saying, you're 100% right. You have, if you can't be grateful that you're here, don't go digging in your past because you're not going to find it there either.
And there are so many great things about being alive, right? I love drinking coffee, and I cannot explain what kind of pleasure I have doing that, and being grateful that I have the opportunity today to wake up, to go to my favorite coffee shop and to buy my favorite coffee and to drink that. I mean, it sounds like, what is that, Diana? It's nothing, but it's actually a lot, because if we don't find pleasure in those small things, where are we going? That's what I think. Okay, Ryan, the next question is about the purpose of our existence. What is the purpose of our existence, like generally speaking, through your perspective? If we look deep into our existence, it's getting confusing, right? As we understand that everything is impermanent. And that's
Yep.
why I guess impermanence is one of the fundamental concepts in teachings in Buddhism, right? Because we have to make peace with that
Right.
somehow. And what is the purpose of our existence if everything that we work for and we have is impermanent?
Well, there's one thing that is permanent, right?
What?
Survival.
Survival.
Survival is survival. So the permanent thing, there's a permanent part of our experience, which is the instinct of the body to produce, reproduce, and to live. So we know that is the baseline of being here, right? To reproduce, to protect your young, to raise your young, and to continue to survive as long as you can, right? That's the theme of the planet. I think one of the big misnomers is that we think of the earth as this kind of wonderland when the earth is actually, it will tear you up and spit you out. It will destroy your house. It will send a bear into your campground. The earth is not a playground. The earth is a full-on multi-dimensional experience of good and bad, of chaos and calm, shall we say. So I think that the one thing that's permanent is that's not going to change, right? So if we set a baseline of knowing what's permanent, even though we are not permanent in our life force and we won't live forever, well, those things won't change. Your body's not going to stop fighting. Even that's why you see people that are 80, and I've worked with people because I've been a death doula as well, right? I work with people that are dying. So, and I have patients in nursing homes that are dying. So their body, I've seen people that have been getting the morphine lollipop, and they are on hospice Everything about them should be gone now. They haven't had water for 5 days. They haven't eaten for like 20 days, and they're a skeleton, but they have a heartbeat. The body doesn't want to go. And I think that the mind was already gone. Their brain was already gone, right? They weren't in the body. The body was still clinging on to life. So there's a part that's it's impermanent in its feasibility to stay here forever, but not in its fight. So the fight for life is permanent as long as you're physical. So that's one thing. So we know that. And that's why I said that I don't think there could ever be peace on this planet in our physical state because of that need to survive at all costs, right? That's the psychological experiment of the people in the raft, right? Who can get in? Who's going to go on the raft, right? And who's going to have to stay in the water? That level of importance of the hierarchy of who's going to get in the boat.
But at the same
So
time, there is enough goodness for everybody in this universe. So why should we fight? And
we
like,
associate the universe with goodness. That's our first fault. The universe is about balance. The universe is the balance of chaos and calm. The universe isn't about light and dark in the sense as we design it. That's
so,
how we want it.
so it's not the people that create the chaos, but it's by
No,
design.
it's by design. Because in order to have creation, you have to have destruction. Because if you just have creation constantly, there'd be nothing left. It would consume everything, right? It'd be like cancer. If creation was all that is in one frame of mind, it would be cancerous. But because there's antibodies as above, so below, like in hermetics, because there's antibodies in the body that will fight an infection when an infection is designed to just grow without control, which would be like good, right? Good or bad. If good or bad grew without control, there would be nothing left. So there has to be a policing of the power. Like I can have a building that houses a brothel or a bed and breakfast, right? The energy coming to that house is going to power it just the same. So the universe actually, for us to believe that there's this metaphysical head of that power that's associating it with only doing good or being good is our first, I believe, our first disadvantage. Because then we give, as we've seen many people, we give these humanistic traits to energy or to God, right? And that actually minimizes our experience because it gives us the ability to have excuses. And we can't excuse a storm? I mean, if the sun burps and throws like so much solar radiation that it wipes out half the earth, we're going to blame it on God? Or is it just part of the existence? Is it just part of how things go? It's just part of the calm and the chaos. So I would say that the highest level of interaction is when you go back to that energy, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a do-gooder, right? When you're at the highest level, the highest vibration, as they've proven, isn't good. It's acceptance. The highest frequency is acceptance, right?
That's
Acceptance means unconditional love says, if I saw you kill somebody, I'm still not going to judge you. I'm not going to have a condition, right? So everybody puts this unconditional God out there, but then for God to be unconditional, then nothing that we do really matters. Or does it?
That's deep.
It matters to us. Because we've taken that energy and put it in the cup. And everything in that cup matters because the one thing that is always consistent is our need to survive, no matter what.
No matter what.
That's a consistent concept.
Yeah. And Ryan, through my study and work in psychology, I have understood, maybe it's nothing new, it's not a surprise for anybody, that the ultimate fear that humans hold, that's fear of death, right? And because it's too painful, we put a lot of layers on that, right? And we cover it up with other fears. But when you peel the onion, you will see it's that, right? Which is understandable. Like our brains are wired for answers. They want to know, right? To refer to something, to have a referral point. Maybe our past experience, maybe somebody else's experience, maybe science, something. And here we don't have. And it gets scary. So how can people cope with that fear of death? Because I believe if we have tools to cope with that fear of death, we'll cope also with a lot of other fears that are, just covering up the fear of death.
Well, I think kind of not to take the long road around, but like I know like even Rudolf Steiner used to talk about that even so consciousness is contained in a vacuum and then creates like our experience, the earth and all of these things. And then outside of that vacuum is God, the unconditional God. But within that vacuum is all the conditions, all the angels, all the demons, all the things that we designed to keep this bubble contained, right? So that we can continue, almost like our spirit decided to recycle. Like we almost, the collective said, "Hey, let's reincarnate because we don't want to die." So even almost the energy itself was afraid of death, so it created a bubble to keep bouncing around like a ping pong ball, or like a pinball, boom, 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 so it doesn't die. Trying to find out how can I contain this unconditional God energy in a space to confine it so we can live forever. Like the energy separated from that unconditional to become conditional, to say, I don't want to die. I don't want to dissipate. I don't want to just be a ring in a planet, right? I don't want to just be a comet shooting across the sky. I want to have an experience. So it created a bubble called consciousness within this unconditional experience. And inside of that lives all of our avatars. And then we recirculate. Like we created reincarnation, not God. We did it because we're so powerful and we had that thought, like, how could I live forever? Well, to live forever, I'd have to be able to find a way to live again. And to live again, well, then I'd have to die and be born and die. So we created it. So I don't know that there's ever a way to reduce the fear of death until you look at things from a space of surrender, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can surrender is to live without regrets, is to live your life and tap into your truth as much as possible in a way that's not offensive to people, right? Like if your truth is walking around with your pants down, do that on a deserted island, please. I don't want to like see that like swinging around. It's like, so we have to have some formalities in the quest of truth, but to tap into your truth as deeply as possible and to be that truth. And when the lights go out, you're not looking back thinking could have, should have, would have. I think should have is the greatest sin of all, right? When I should have. And it's death is that moment when you think about everything that you didn't do and you could have. And the only way to reduce that fear is to not have that concept. And the only way to do that is to find your truth, to live it victoriously without victimizing anybody, and to embrace every single breath. I think learning how to breathe properly with intention is one of the most, because I have panic attacks, I'm not going to lie. Still, because after having your face crushed with a gun and dying from that, it's really difficult. I've been to therapy and everything else. It's just, I even went as I was a stuntman. So it's even putting myself in situations to test my ability to let go. And it's still tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll breathe in. I altered my box breathing to have intention. I breathe in for 4 seconds, but when I'm breathing in, it's a state of asking. I'm like, I'm breathing. I'm like, please, please, please help. Come in, come in. And when I hold my breath, I'm like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And I allow that breath to be in my body without having to surrender it, without having to justify it, just to feel it and to be so beautifully connected with it and realize this is for me right now, this moment. And then when I exhale it, I'm thinking anything that I don't want, leave. Anything that I don't need, leave. And then when I let it go and I let it all out, box breathing, I stop and I don't breathe for as long as I can, not 4 seconds. I hold that lack of space, that vacuum for as long as I can to practice going beyond the eighth sphere. Like Rudolf Steiner said, I accept, I surrender, I accept.
Yeah, we're just coming back to what you have mentioned before a while. Just acceptance. It's a
Acceptance.
powerful tool. It's a powerful tool. Ryan, let's now move a little bit to the area law of attraction. Everybody's talking about that. Such a trendy thing. Get your vibe high. You have to be in alignment with yourself. Be light. What is your take on that? And can it be dangerous?
I'd say, well, I would say the law of attraction, we could call it the law of reciprocity. We could call it the law of assumption. We could call it the principle of correspondence, right? Dangerous it is in all areas because most people wield it solely for themselves. And then, oh, well, let's put it this way, 20% wield it solely for themselves. The 80% wield it unconsciously. So when everyone is, so the idea of lack means that you don't understand abundance. The idea that we have, or when we're operating in a state of lack, it means that we can't look at the bigger picture, right? Because we're looking at I don't have this, but there's never a case of you don't have. When you look at the universe in a state of unconditionality and you look at things as just energetic, if you're hungry, you have a lot of hunger, right? So you're always in a state of abundance. It's just a perception of that abundance. If I'm homeless, I'm still in a state of abundance. And I know this is questionable. People have like given me shit for this, but it's like you're operating in abundance and an attraction in all the time in every way. It's just a couple people figured out that I can control it and I can manipulate it for my benefit. But that's still dangerous because we're not looking at it as, like I said, like we're going from the old age and transition into the age of Aquarius. We're going from the God of the I am to the collective God of the we are. And until we're able to look at the law of attraction as a group and associate it with something that benefits the whole, it is selfish. It's all about self-replication, self-preservation. It's all about how can I have? And that's a lower version of consciousness. It's all about how can I have? I've taught law of attraction. I think I watched The Secret like about 17 times when it first came out. My first example of law of attraction, which is kind of funny, I was in this place called Z Gallery. I saw a sofa and getting ready to move into my own space. Like I needed an anchor for that. I needed a cool piece of furniture that said this is it. And I saw it and then I looked at the price tag and it was $1,200. And I think, well, I was at 34. And at the time I was like, shit, that's a lot for a sofa. I got $600 for a sofa. And then I realized, I was like, you know what? Law of attraction, law of attraction. I'm going to charge the rest of this sofa, even though I don't have it. And I'm going to pay $600 in cash. I'm going to charge the other 600 and I'm going to manifest it. Then I went to the ATM and as I'm taking out my $600, I was like, this is bullshit. I only have 600. I'm not going to go in debt for anything. I'm going to create a sofa for $600. And then I left and I'm still thinking about, my ego's wrestling it. And then in a yard across from the ATM, a college student was selling all of their stuff because I got busted for smoking marijuana. So daddy's like, come home. She had to sell everything. And that sofa was still wrapped in the freaking plastic for $600 on the front lawn. Coincidence? Possibly.
Possibly. That was I was going to say exactly that. Maybe that's coincidence.
We don't know, but it depends on how I decide to look at it. And if I look at that as law of attraction, well, now suddenly I have something that grounds me into a space where I can try to choose unconsciously to manipulate reality to my benefit.
But why do we want to do that? Because we
Because we're
feel
all,
afraid.
I think we're all innately narcissists, right?
And because we are afraid, I think. Simply to be. And to know that we'll handle whatever occurs.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, do you really need law of attraction if you're operating in your truth?
No.
If you have truth, an item that you need to attract to you isn't going to make you happier. It might enhance.
For a second, yes, maybe. But then,
The
the
law of
brain
attraction.
adapts to everything, then it's gone.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, otherwise, so the law of attraction can be an anchor to your own your own narcissistic tendencies.
Oh,
So it can be dangerous to the psyche. 100%.
yeah. And I know that you also love astrology. Can you tell us what does astrology say for this year?
Well, it depends on where you're at, but it says, hold on.
Should I move back to Bulgaria or Germany? It's a good place. What can people do for themselves? Let's leave the countries and what is going to happen with the system for a while. What can people do to enrich their lives during this year, considering astrology?
I think learn to listen to your body, right? Know what your body's telling you, and if you're having any health issues, or if you're having any kind of, also listen to learn your anxiety triggers and things like that. Try to mitigate excess energy going out to anxiety, depression, those things. Really work on yourself, right? Because I think that COVID really set us into a tailspin of isolation and a depreciation of our social structure and support system. So reestablish your support system for yourself, for your friends. Don't be afraid. Be involved with more people. Add more love to your life, because those are the things that brave storms, right? Those are the things that bring people together. Is that connection? So this should be a year about establishing connection, because I'll tell you what, you could have 10,000 pounds of grain in your basement and bullets, but if you're going at it alone, you're still going to die. You're going to shoot yourself by the end of it, right? Because you're not going to physically be able to. I mean, you're going to have that desert island kind of like Castaway thing where you're like talking to a volleyball with a handprint on it. So it's like without community, and community has been robbed from us in a way because we've been pushed and pulled, and we've been kind of like gaslit to go after each other on different topics. But we need to go beyond the trivial topics and go beyond the past and really come together in a small group. The people around you are the people that are going to save you anyway, right? So they're going to be the ones that you're going to save. They're going to, and you're going to share a pizza with your neighbor, not with somebody online in another country. So even though that's great and fabulous, give it its space, but direct more of your time to where you're at.
I love that. More unity. We definitely need that. Ryan, I see that we are running out of time. As an end of this show,
In so many ways. In so many ways.
As an end of this episode, I would like to start a sentence, and I would like you quickly to finish this sentence without too much thinking. That's something I do with every guest. So, are you ready for that? Let's do that. My spiritual journey taught me that
Happiness.
if I could change one thing in the world, it would be
My shoe size.
the best advice.
You're gonna keep going.
I accept everything, whatever you want. The best advice I've ever heard is
not to take things personally.
life for me is
Challenging.
the one thing I strive to achieve every day is
To be thankful and not to look back.
I really believe in
God and myself is God.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for this conversation. It was very deep, very profound, exactly what I have expected. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome.